This is Tales from the Pros, where business leaders and influencers share their stories of inspiration, struggles, and successes. And I'm your host, Michael Giorgio. Hey everyone, welcome to Tales from the Pros, and this is Michael Giorgio, your host and co-founder of Imaginovation. My wonderful guest with me here today is a successful entrepreneur, as well as the founder and CEO of Accelity, which is a B2B Inbound Marketing Agency. She is also a LinkedIn thought leader, hovering over 60,000 followers, a women's entrepreneurship advocate, and an amazing content creator. Please welcome the amazing Jackie Hermes. Jackie, I really appreciate you being here today and taking the time to chat with me. So thank you very much. This is awesome.
Yes, thanks for reaching out. I'm excited.
Yeah, cool. I know we connected a little bit on LinkedIn, and I've always wanted to have the time to talk with you, and did some research on you and your background. It's very inspiring. Seems like you've been through a lot, which is, I know it's tough to say this, but it's kind of cool to talk with someone that has been like yourself, that has this inspiring journey, because I know it's not going to be a boring conversation. We're going to have a really kick-ass conversation, and I think people will find a lot of value in it and be inspired by you, and that's the goal here today. So thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Yes, let's do it.
So, the first thing I want to start off with, Jackie, is really, I'm a huge advocate for storytelling. I love it. I think everyone has an inspiring story to tell, and I know that you do. And just from, aside from the successes you've had in business and where you're going, can you tell me on a high level how you got to where you are today? I know you love marketing and content, and you talk a little bit about inbound marketing and entrepreneurship. I know you started some other businesses before this, and that's cool. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
How far back should I go? It's so funny. Usually when people ask me for the story, they're like, tell me about your business journey, but not like the rest of it. So,
well, I'll leave it up to you. I never want to, I always want to make sure that you're comfortable talking about whatever you want. So, it could be a little bit about life, or just talk about how you started, at least in business. You don't have to talk about, hey, I was 2 years old and I had this.
And I was born, I had a lemonade stand. No, it's funny because it's something that's top of mind when you ask that is, I was just thinking about writing a post about some comments I've gotten recently about my strong opinions and how I must be so privileged and must have a lot of support from other people. Which is really, it's interesting because people make assumptions that I have a rich family, or I have, because bootstrapping your company is not something that is very easy to do when you don't have that support. But I mean, the short version, I'm the first person in my family that went to college, which going to college is not an indicator always either way. I don't fully believe that you even need a degree to be able to start a company. And I know some people that haven't done it, which is great. But for me, that was a huge milestone. And I'm also the first kind of entrepreneur in my company. My parents always had entrepreneurial tendencies. Like my dad developed this weed sprayer that was like a lawnmower attachment. And
oh, cool.
I remember he like shipped it off to like China to try to get it manufactured. And he was like taking pictures of my mom spraying weeds in the front yard. And I was like, this is weird. What is he doing? When I was little. So I got to see some of that growing up, but I was very questioned when I wanted to start my own company. My first business that I started was a vegan cookie company. And I think
I read about that. That's so cool.
I don't even like how that happened. I think I like blocked that part of my life out largely because it's hard work, man. Like you have to figure out where you're gonna rent space and where you're going to make cookies. And we ended up renting from a cake maker that was there during the day, and we could only be there at night. So I had a baby, and it was like trying to make cookies at night so that I could sell them from tents on the weekend, and try to
Mm.
get them into grocery stores, which people don't really realize that to get product into grocery stores, sometimes you have to be there yourself to hand it out and to sell it,
Oh
because it's not
yeah.
like a preservative-less cookie just appears on the shelf and people are like, looks great, and they try it. That's just not really how it works. So
Mm.
that was really like how I dipped my toe into business. And it wasn't simple by any means. My family, I love them so much and they're very supportive, but they also really value stability. And I don't think that they saw this as a very stable path for me. Now they're used to my antics now that I'm, however many years into this, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this. Like my next thing that I want to try to tackle is buying and managing rental properties. And now that I tell them stuff like that, they don't bat an eye.
Hmm.
But the journey to get there was not a super easy one, but I'm glad I did it. That's for sure.
That's cool. So it kind of it seems like when you started that was the cookie company, right? That gave you
Mm-hmm.
this entrepreneurship tick, kind of this something in your mind and body and spirit that really triggered you to start something else and keep going with it. And so do you kind of feel a little bit, Jackie, that you couldn't really work for anybody else again? Now that you've had your businesses, it's a lot of work. It's hard as hell.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. But you ever have that, you ever think about that, like, could I actually work for
Mm-hmm.
someone again, because you've done both, it seems, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I worked in corporate. I started my career at GE Healthcare, which is a big company.
Hmm.
And I kind of got to see all the layers and how to try to push projects through. And I knew that I didn't want to stay in a company that big, though I did like working for GE. The people there are very dedicated to what they do, and to their
Hmm.
work, which I've always loved. Then I worked at an $80 million software company, and it was easier to push things through, but still, I mean, you can't make as much of an impact, like in my business or in the companies that we're working with, which are largely startups. It's a quick process, because I'm talking to the CEO and we're like, we should do this. And they say, sounds good. Then we go do it.
Hmm.
So it's just a little bit different. I think I've been thinking about whether or not I could work for someone else more during this pandemic, because my company took a pretty decent hit, and it wasn't all at one time. So it's just been like business has kind of been trickling away over time. And during that time we've been selling as well, but it's been scary for sure. And so I've been like, is everything I've been working for the last 7 years in this agency evaporating? Am I going to have to go get a job? Am I even employable anymore? I know I could do it, but do I want to? I don't really think so, but who knows?
Yeah, it is. And I know, I appreciate you being so candid and honest in this. I know you've written some posts about this as well. It's a crazy, I mean, just what people are going through. It's a crazy struggle. And it's good to even for us to talk about it now, because we can look back later and be like, man, did we actually have the interview during this? And we were present. And I think I think we just got to keep moving forward and support each other. And just I do believe that having the time to think can be good, but it is also very scary. I struggle with it too, because sometimes when you have so much to think about, you overthink it, and you're like,
Hmm.
what the heck am I doing? Am I even, like, am I going to survive? What's going on here? And there's a lot of uncertainty. And I'm sure if we go back to like our grandparents or great grandparents who were in the depression, at least, well, not mine, but at least I'm talking about people that were born and raised here, and they could probably say the same thing, that it was very scary times, and now we're kind of going through that as well, and it's tough. So I have a lot of respect for you and you building your business, and we'll talk about Accelity in a second, asking you what what your company does, but I all hands on to you. I think that's great. So lots of respect to that. That's
Thanks.
fantastic. But when it comes to your marketing agency, so tell us a little bit about what you guys do. And that started years ago, right? Over 4 years
Yeah.
ago.
7 actually.
Evan,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
So I had a few kind of freelance clients on the side, and I just kind of up and quit my job, which is maybe not always the best move, but I really believed that I could turn my side hustle into a full-time thing, and that was 7 years ago. So now we've got, I don't know, 15 employees. all working from home in Milwaukee. We just built out a brand new office at the end of last year. So now I go there and I'm like, oh, sad. But so what we do is we work with mostly B2B software companies, some B2B service companies, and we help them grow faster. So a lot of companies, especially startups in the industries that we're working in, it might be banking and finance, healthcare, insurance, old industries that technology is entering into these industries and changing them. It can be very difficult to sell into these old established companies as a startup because it's very hard to gain trust. You don't have the contacts in the industry often, though sometimes the companies are founded by someone with experience that does have contacts. But you have to be able to gain trust of all of these decision makers to make a sale. And that's really what we do, is gaining trust and helping generate leads through content, through building out websites, and just making the companies look a little bit larger than life. And that's actually that's what we do for ourselves too. So I actually was just in a accelerator program, a business accelerator in Milwaukee, probably at this time last year. And it was for companies that are $1 to $5 million, which is where my company lands. And one of the guest speakers was there, and he started a bunch of different companies. And he looked at me and he was like, "Hey, I know you from LinkedIn." And he was like, kind of like, "What are you doing here?" And then he said, because of the company size, because he thought that our company was bigger than that because of the presence that we've built, which is really freaking cool. I can't remember what he said. Like, you really bat outside of your something. It was a baseball reference that I don't know anything about sports, but it was a really cool experience because I was like, that's it. That's exactly what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do for our clients is make them, larger than they actually are.
That's cool. And you bootstrapped this business. I mean, it was 100%, right? Because you had the cookie company, from what I read about you, right? And you took whatever, you made from the previous company, you put it into this one. So there's probably a lot of risk. You were scared. You went through all that stuff, I'm sure. And it started, I like what you talk about, because this is what I want to focus a little of this episode on is the bootstrapping aspect. People, I've worked with hundreds of startups as well. And I know that people always have this idea. They want to be the next best Facebook or Uber, right? All this stuff you hear, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I don't always believe, hey, you need the next best amazing idea to be successful. That's not true. And I think that's a wrong stigma that people have. There's a lot of competition in marketing. There's a lot of competition in technology and podcasts, right? All that. But there's ways you can differentiate yourself, right? So you started this side hustle. You had the passions of marketing. You had the skill of marketing. You grew your experience, it seems, from LinkedIn. You have an amazing, you have huge reach and lots of contacts and network. But how did you really know when you had your side hustle? How did you translate that into actually being an operating business? What was that like? Was it just because of the clients coming in, you couldn't handle that work? Was that just the time you're like, this is time, this is it?
I think that I was honestly kind of lucky to make some good decisions at the beginning, because I've always been of the school of thought that if you're not really good at the work, you have to outsource it to someone else. So my entire team is full of people that are better at what they do than I am. And I think a lot of people that start a company try to hold on to every little piece that they feasibly can do. I go to an athletic trainer, and I was talking to her the other day, and she's spending every night trying to figure out how to build her WordPress site. And she is like, finally, after a few weeks, I got my homepage done. And I'm like, that's awesome. Could you do a trade with someone that knows WordPress and that needs your services or something like that, so that you can focus on what you're really good at? And she's a super hustler. She's in her 20s. She's starting an office in Chicago. She's hiring people. She's just taking all the risks and killing it. And my philosophy is focus on the things that you're really good at and then outsource the rest. And that's what I started doing, is I started bringing in freelancers to start, designers, copywriters, just people that I could do all of that. But looking back, it's probably questionable quality design, at least. And when I finally had enough work going to those people, I actually ended up bringing some of those freelancers in full time. So
Nice.
My creative director was my very first design freelancer, and she's been with me ever since. So
That's cool. No, that's
six
awesome.
years. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
really cool. So
Man.
I don't know. I want to say it kind of happened organically, where I just really focused on selling and getting more business and then figuring out what to do with the work.
That's so cool. No, I like that. I think that gives it's going to give a lot of people great advice, and I think a lot of clarity, because when you're on that entrepreneurship mode, I think we all still are. I know you are. We're always thinking and
Yes.
new ideas. But when you're in that startup, you're not a startup anymore, right? You're established. But when you're in that startup, the first 1 or 2 years, 3 years, you don't know what to do. I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I first started. I mean, 9 years ago, I'm like, what am I even doing? Things are disorganized, unprioritized. It's just crazy what you learn over time, right? I'm sure you probably went through that too.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on sometimes, but
I still feel like that after 7 years, because it's now,
yeah.
I've gotten us to this stage, but how the heck do I get us to the next stage? I've been having some conversations with potential investors that know how to get to that next stage. And I always end up saying no. I usually go through all these conversations, and I've done this a bunch of times, and then I'm like, no, I've gotten us to this point. I know that I can get us to the next point, and it seems like the easy way out to me because I'm stubborn as hell and I don't want to give away any of the company. But it's not always the same things that get you, to that next place.
And with LinkedIn, especially with you being heavily active on LinkedIn and doing, you're doing great on it. When did you start that process? Was it a few years back?
2 years ago, actually. Do you know Quentin Allums?
Yeah, he's also from Wisconsin too, right?
He is. He and I have worked together for years, actually. He was one of my first employees at Accelity. Then he left to start, I think this is his third business, so he started a few. And I met him for coffee a few years ago, and he was like, you got to get on LinkedIn. And I was like, no, thank you. I was very uncomfortable shooting videos, and I did not want to put myself out there and open myself up to criticism. And I was like, I need to stay in my little mentally healthy bubble, which does not include criticism from random strangers on the internet. But he pushed me into it, and I'm so glad that he did, because now 2 years later, I mean, what it looks like has changed over time. But it's brought so much to my company. I mean, it's how I met you. It's how I meet a lot of people that are just such valuable relationships now.
And I know we talked a little bit about this before the podcast, when we started, but so do you, for at least for your own personal branding that you tie into your company, do you plan ahead some of your content, or a lot of it is ad hoc, just your intuition, how you feel? I'm going to post a video today. It's Tuesday or Thursday or Friday or Sunday. How does that process work in your mind?
I used to plan it ahead. Quentin's company did a lot of my shooting, editing, planning, and all of that stuff. So we would shoot 5 videos a week, and then we'd put them up the next week. And now COVID really changed my thought process around this, because I don't have someone shooting my videos for me and someone captioning them. And I do still have designers on my team that are helping with that stuff, but now it's up to me. And it's been cool because my content has changed a lot. I think it's gotten more real, where I'm just talking about whatever I'm thinking about or the struggles of that day. Like you said that you read that article I just put up yesterday about,
which I loved, by the way. I loved. It was great. It was really good. Yeah.
And you know what? That started as me just this weekend thinking and jotting down some things in a note in my phone, and then realizing I think this could be a really great article. And so it's a lot more organic now, and it's a lot more of a representation of just what I am experiencing and how I'm feeling, which I think is really cool. And I think you can do it both ways, but I'm liking this for me for now.
You embrace your vulnerability, and it's hard. It's very hard. I mean, I really struggle with that, Jackie. There's some things I went through, bullying when I was a kid and all that. And sometimes I'm afraid to talk about it to the whole LinkedIn world. I just don't well, maybe I should. I don't know. Anyways, but
Mm-hmm. You have
yeah.
to know that when you do talk about stuff like that, you're going to get 99 supporters. And for every 99 supporters, you're going to get a hater, someone that says
Mm-hmm.
bullying isn't real, or, whatever the heck it is. And you have to be prepared to handle stuff like that. I've posted
Mm-hmm.
content when I was not prepared to handle stuff like that. And it can take you down. I posted a few weeks ago about how someone screen grabbed one of my posts and submitted it to a meme site or a meme page on Instagram, and someone sent it to me, and there were just hundreds of comments of just saying terribly nasty things about me.
Was it the
And
meeting post?
yeah. People were very unhappy about that one.
Oh.
Which, it was, looking back, it could have been a little bit of the phrasing of the first one, which was a little like, I hate the word sassy, but it kind of was. And that's just how I was feeling and how I wrote it that day. So whatever. But by the time I saw this post on Instagram, there were like 8,000 reactions to it. And there were hundreds and hundreds of comments, just kind of tearing
Wow.
me down. And it took me out for like a good hour. I sat there and read them all, which you should never do. Never do that. That I always tell people, like, don't read the comments and don't watch your own videos back. And then I did it anyway. But if you can turn it into fuel to show people, like, this stuff does happen. And I really just like retold my story and put it all out there and said, this happened, and I think this is bullshit. And I'm not going to change my stance. You cannot bully me into changing my opinion on this. And the amount of support that I got back from that was incredible, and it allowed me to take back my power. So that's just kind of like the coping thing that I've learned. Like people like Shay. Shay Rowbottom, tons of supporters. Also, she gets a good amount of hate.
Oh yeah.
Coping with stuff like that, man, I don't know. It's something I'm still figuring out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get all these trolls and you wonder, are they working? They have this time to just say, hey, Jackie, this is crap. This is not good. Or Michael, this is not good. Or this is, you're not, it's just, I've seen a lot of hate, but I feel like I've seen it worse on some of these other platforms on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's actually been a little bit better, but that's what I've seen. I don't know enough yet.
No, I agree.
But,
I agree. People are more professional, I think, on LinkedIn, and a little more kind. I think that when you can get to the point where you're looking at this hate from people and you're trying to think about how must they feel to want to write something like this, and what headspace or what must they be experiencing to be reacting and lashing out like this to a stranger on the internet. And then ultimately I just end up kind of feeling bad for them, and then I can just let it evaporate from my brain a little bit.
No, I get it. So, on a more, at least, business perspective on LinkedIn, right? Because I think a lot of people want to know this. I'm sure for you, and this is my assumption, is that you probably get a lot of leads, probably pretty good leads on it, that's so good to hear, because I'll tell you, at least for me being more of a new content creator on LinkedIn, which I'm loving it. I love the challenge. It's all great. I love the platform. I've been on it for years, but lately, the last few months, I've been posting every day, which is really cool. But I feel like lead generation for many people out there, it's hard. So do you have any advice for those out there that are struggling with lead generation? From what I've understood, and I think this is with anything in business, it requires lots of patience. I just posted about this yesterday, actually. Remove that instant gratification. We want that quick result, right? Get that out of your head, right?
Yep.
It requires a lot of patience, perseverance. It's like anything in business. You want something, it takes time. So it's probably the same thing with LinkedIn, right? But there's a little more strategy. So do you have some advice on a strategic perspective on LinkedIn, or is it just
I think that a lot of people think that and this is the advice I hear a lot, build trust and the leads will kind of come in. And that's a great strategy. I think one of the reasons that people do reach out to me is because they do end up trusting me or liking my content or whatever it may be. But that said, I think there are a lot of strategies that you can use to help accelerate some of that. Now, it's not going to be instant. Nothing really ever is. But so we do things like creating top prospect lists. So if we have 50, 100, however many companies that we really want to work with, then we go and we find all of their decision makers on LinkedIn. We add all of them to my profile so they start seeing my content. And the cool thing is a number of people on my team post content too, and it's all in their own way that they want to do it. There's no like mandate, like you must post content. You are a designer. If you want to post a really creative video or you want to post about design, go for it. Our head of sales posts about the sales strategies that work for him. And if we continue to add and follow our prospects on LinkedIn, suddenly I start getting messages like, I don't know how I got connected to 10 people on your team, but you guys make some really great content. I'm like, isn't it weird that happened? And usually I tell them this is 100% intentional, because we're trying to get these people into our pipeline, but not in an aggressive, we're calling them every day and cold messaging them on LinkedIn. It's much more, it's organic, forced organic, I guess, but we still let them come to us. So I think if you put a little bit of framework and strategy around it, you can accelerate your results much more quickly.
And do you have to tie your content towards that target audience exactly, or not necessarily? So for example, if you guys are a marketing agency, so do you have to talk about marketing stuff specifically or not necessarily? Because I've seen your content, it's good, it's inspiring, but not all of it's marketing related.
Most of it isn't.
It's not, yep.
But the funny thing is, I think you can be successful in both ways. Like look at Chris Walker on LinkedIn. He posts exclusively content about marketing and inbound and lead generation and ROI and how to do all of that. And he has a really great targeted following. Now, I think that a lot of his followers are probably marketers, and he probably gets a ton of leads from that. I think I'm trying to build a personal brand that's a little bit more holistic and on things that I'm interested in. Like I, as a CEO bootstrapping a company, I want to talk about bootstrapping, growing a company, mindset, the mental game that comes with entrepreneurship. And I think that I've made so many connections with other founders and other entrepreneurs. I always wonder, like, should I be posting more specifically about sales or marketing? But I'm just doing what feels right to me because I want to make those organic connections. And I think you never know what kind of opportunity is going to come either. Most of our clients, we recommend that they educate on things related to their industries, but they're not talking specifically about themselves, which can be something hard to get over. I don't think a lot of people don't like that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I agree. I think it's we have this mindset, this mentality that you have to target, if you're running if you have just a podcast, you have to target people that are just looking to be on a podcast, which I think it would be very hard. It's almost like what kind of people, it depends on your exact target. You could be targeting just CTOs of companies maybe, or CMOs of companies. Do you only make content, CMO content around podcasts? Not necessarily. I like what you're doing. That's really cool. You're more holistic. You're and I think you're able to inspire and help people that even you're not just trying to do business with, right? You're going to get yourself at another level. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think like look at Gary Vee, or not that I'm anywhere close, but man, I'd like to be someday. And he was running a bunch of different companies, and he's just giving messages that help people in general. Now, I don't always love his message or his approach, but I think I really love the strategy behind it. And I love my company. That's not to say that I'm going to be in it, running it on the day-to-day forever. I can see a lot of other things in the future. Like you and I were just talking about real estate, and God, I have like 100 different ideas of companies to start and ways to make money. So we'll see. And LinkedIn is something that I want to be able to take with me forever.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And, going back to inbound marketing. So I know the reason why, because I believe inbound is the most powerful way to execute, your marketing in general. But for those people out there that are still learning about it, can you tell them why inbound's so powerful, and really what aspects of inbound are powerful? I know there's SEO, there's content, there's social, but a little bit, get into that just a little bit for me. I know you love
Yeah.
that stuff.
I do. Yeah. I've spent a lot of time convincing CEOs that they should be focusing more on marketing than they are and less on the outbound sales mentality. I just got an email from someone the other day and she said, my CEO just wants our salespeople to cold call and he doesn't see the value of marketing. And yeah, I know. And you know what? I think
Oh,
it's easier for people to understand, like, step one, make a call. Step two is you get a meeting or you don't. And those are the only options. Not
right.
marketing, I think, is a little too, I don't want to say convoluted, but it's a little too layered for some people, right? Where
Yeah.
you're building this brand awareness and then you're educating and then the consumer has all of these touch points and then they finally come to you. But I don't have numbers off the top of my head, but studies have shown over and over again that the more you're putting out different kinds of content and reaching your buyers, be it via video, via written content, whatever, I always say, whatever your audience is consuming, whatever industry they work in, meet them where they are. So if they're consuming publications in their industry, go and try to put content in front of them there. You're going to gain trust. They're going to know who you are. And then by the time maybe you do call them down the line, or maybe they come to you, they're going to know who you are. It's going to be a faster sale. It's going to be much more likely to close. And that's the power of marketing. I think a big part of it is just making sure that you're tracking, like, not necessarily attribution, but help understanding where people are coming from and how they've interacted with your brand so that you can truly understand the power of marketing. And that's the hard part. A lot of people still see
Yeah.
marketing as a cost center, when really it's not at all. You know, like in a pandemic, marketing is often one of the first things that gets cut, and it's like kind of like cutting off your own foot trying to walk. It's just,
That to me is, anyway, that's a whole
yeah.
different conversation.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't get it. They're one of
Yeah.
the first people to cut. I read something about that on LinkedIn. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you're cutting off the legs.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be able to walk. How can you even get somewhere when you're cutting off the legs of the organization? It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Oh man, and I love it because inbound marketing is really, it's pull marketing. You're pulling them in. It's almost it's like a reverse psychology tactic. You're not trying to be in their face selling them. Having these spam phone calls when someone calls you. I'm sure you get these spam emails and phone calls all the time. It's so annoying, and you're like, I'm not even. I got a message on LinkedIn about, hey, we're trying to franchise. I'm like, I don't own a restaurant. I don't understand. Why are you targeting me? I don't even get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense,
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree 100%.
it's
And there are so many other, like, outside of just the piece of growing your business, more sales, there are things like making your company desirable to employees. And there are just so many benefits that usually when we start working with companies that haven't really been doing any marketing, they're like, oh man, we should have started this a long time ago. Because it's not something that
mhm.
you just go like, poof, magic, and suddenly like you're doing marketing. It takes a long time. It took us honestly years to really crack the code of
Oh,
getting
yeah.
the numbers really high on our site and getting tons of prospects in our pipeline. We really felt like we were on a hamster wheel for a while trying to crack that code for ourselves, and that can happen with clients too. So it's
Mhm.
definitely, now is the time to
Yeah,
start.
it is. And I want to give you props as why I sent you this in the LinkedIn message. I love your website.
Thank
I
you.
love it. It's really cool. I know you guys worked hard on it. It's very simple. It's sleek. It's intuitive. And I think it shows like all the effort that you put in year after year in it. Because, a lot of us, I know you've been running your company for years now. You've probably redesigned it a few times, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it takes so much trial and error to get it right. But I love the logo, the corporate identity. It's very simple. The site's very easy to navigate, and you understand what you're trying to accomplish, and that's good stuff. It really
Thank
is.
you.
Yeah, I love
Yes.
it.
I think that when I look at marketing, I'm always trying to and that's kind of what the logo stands for, is taking something complicated and making it very as simple as possible. And that's what we
Hmm.
do, is looking at all of these, like we work in insurance. industries really don't get much more complicated than the healthcare and insurance industries. And taking that and making it simple is a challenge that most companies, a lot of times you can't do it when you're too close. So it's something that we really love doing.
Very, very cluttered. I'm sure you've spoken to, or at least you've seen his content, David Breer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I interviewed him and he talked about the simplicity of just even a logo or branding. It's crazy. Some of these big companies, they're so cluttered. Their logo and their branding, their colors are so congested, and their messaging. And anyways, let's go into towards branding. But yeah, I love what you guys have done. Lots of props. But so last question I have for you. So I know we were talking about this before, at least on Messenger. So I always ask this to everyone. How would you define your story, Jackie's story, in one word? I know that you're probably thinking about this.
Yeah, I saw that when you posted it, and I was like, oh, I have to think about this. And then one thing popped into my head that I haven't been able to get out of my head, and that word is overcome. Overcome, whatever other people's expectations are, or even overcome any challenges. I think that has been my main focus really in life, is getting to that next stage. So I don't know, that's it.
And I think you're going to continue to overcome a lot. It's hard running a business, and I know you have a family and everything, doing all that together. Sometimes I don't know how people do it. I don't have kids yet, but I'm just like, how am I going to do this when I have a baby? Oh my God, help me.
It doesn't get easier as they get older either. Mine are 9, and 13, and they, the challenges morph a little bit, but they've all been like outside running around. I see them all snacking right there. So at least I don't have to keep an eye on them every second. That's definitely helps.
Yeah, I'm sure I think that word probably relates to your personal and your business life, right? Overcome. So.
Oh, big time.
Yep. That's awesome. No, I appreciate you sharing that with me. So, Jackie, where can everyone find you? Your website. I know we talked about Accelity, but the URL and your, obviously your social channels.
Yeah, social everywhere. It's Accelity Marketing, MKTG, accelitymarketing.com. And then I am the Jackie Hermes on all the social channels. So LinkedIn, as we discussed, is my big one. And I think that Jackie Hermes was taken. So I put it in front of it to make myself all fancy. So that's where you can
There you go. That's good. Well, Jackie, I really appreciate you spending some time with me here today. And it was great to finally meet you and talk to you and hear about your story and everything that you overcame. And I, no doubt you're going to do even greater, bigger things in your life and your career. So you're awesome. Let's continue to stay connected. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Very honored to have you. Thank
you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So yeah, thanks again everyone for listening. And this is your host, Michael Giorgio on Tales from the Pros. And until next time, thank you guys. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and also follow our social media. There are links somewhere around here, but we really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all the support, and I'm going to be giving you awesome content continuously, and we look forward to seeing you soon.